instead.
Hello and welcome to Illini Sports Night's Shot Clock. I'm your host, Nathan Dehaan. Joining me today is the Daily Illini Sports editor, Gabby Hajduk. And Jared Farmer from Illini Productions. Thank you guys.
Great to be here.
Yeah. So, a reminder on the Shot Clock rules is that each of our contestants will have 30 seconds to answer questions about Illinois sports, today focusing on baseball and basketball. Throughout the game, they have an opportunity to use one rebuttal. They don't have to use it, but they only get one. Jared, I'm going to start with you. Illinois baseball just had a very successful weekend out in Frisco, the Frisco Classic in Texas. They went 2-1 with wins against ranked opponents in Texas A&M and Oklahoma State, and a loss to the number one team in UCLA Bruins. Jared, how good can this Illinois baseball team when you look at the Big Ten as a whole?
Well, Nathan, that's a good question. They, of course, as everyone knows, they lost 7 players to the MLB draft last year, but they're returning that sophomore recruiting class that last year was the number one recruiting class in the Big Ten. And, they've had a really tough schedule those first 10 games out and, really held their own so far, despite being in a bit of a rebuilding phase. But I think all things considered, by the time that we get really into the stretch of this Big Ten season, they'll be finishing around that top 3, top 4 spot.
Okay. Gabby, how good do you think this team could be?
I would put Illinois around a 5, maybe 4 range. I think they match up alongside Indiana, Iowa really well. A couple top hitters in all 3 of those teams. But then you have the top closer, maybe in the Big Ten, Garrett Acton, who kind of solidifies Illinois' presence around that middle ground.
Okay. Jared, I got to give this point to you. I like the points that you make about, returning the recruiting class and whatnot.
Awesome. 1-0. Let's go.
Gabby, I'm going to start with you this time. Sticking with baseball, who on the Illinois baseball team is the key to their success?
Key to success has to be Brandon Comia. I mean, he's part of that sophomore returning class, but he also fuels the offense as well as defense at shortstop. He's the Illini's top hitter. He can hit home runs. He can hit it in the outfield, good base hits. I mean, he has it all. He drives and runs almost every game for the Illini and has the longest hitting streak. So I think without him, you lose a ton of consistency in the batting order that they just don't really have elsewhere.
Yeah. Jared?
And well, Nathan, Gabby, some things just don't need to be argued. Brandon clearly has been Illinois' most valuable player so far these first couple of games in the season. He's got a batting average of about 43%, which is insane. Again, leading the team in home runs. So, of course, he's been instrumental in their early success, and I'm thinking that long-term he will continue to be successful.
Yeah, and Jared, while some things might not be argued, I got to award points here. So, Gabby, I'm going to award you this point.
Fair enough.
Fair
enough.
Moving on from baseball and onto basketball, Illinois basketball has been sort of the talk of the town recently. They just secured their 20th win with a win over Indiana this last Sunday. And the team's moving pretty well. And part of that is because of the contributions of the sophomore guard, Alan Griffin. Gabby, I started with you last time. I'm going to start with Jared this time. Jared, should Alan Griffin be starting on this team?
Well, that is, once again, a great question because he provides a whole lot of scoring off of that bench. He's a great three-point shooter, has great energy. But I would actually say that there are benefits to keeping him on the bench, particularly because guys like Andres Feliz, DeMonte Williams, not only have they been around here longer, a bit more familiar with Brad Underwood's system, but they also don't need the ball as much, so it allows people like Io and Trent and Kofi to get a little bit more touches when Griffin is off the floor.
Understood. Gabby?
I think it's essential that you keep Griffin off the bench. He's your top producer coming in out of the starting lineup. You need to give Io a rest sometimes. You need to give Trent a rest. So bringing in a guy who could drive to the hoop, can make a quick pass, can shoot from outside like you've seen, you bring him off the bench and give that spark after a few minutes, essential for the Illini.
All right.
I don't know if this counts necessarily as a rebuttal, but I do think it is one thing to add. I do believe that Alan Griffin is valuable as a closer, maybe especially if he's not starting, because once again, Illinois is a team that really isn't the best three-point shooting team, and he is so valuable, especially from beyond the arc. And again, the defense, the energy, all of that. He's easily emerged as one of Illinois' best contributors.
Yeah, Jared, I'm going to count that as your rebuttal.
Okay.
But it earned you the point. It earned you the point. So
it was worth it then.
Exactly. Looking forward, the Big Ten tournament's coming up for Illinois. And Gabby, I'm going to start with you this time. In terms of the Big Ten, who do you think matches up best against Illinois?
I really think Maryland gives Illinois the best matchup. You have center Jalen Smith, who really just takes Kofi off of his main spot right inside the paint, kind of pushes him outside the block. And then you have you have a couple guards on Maryland who really just can have that deep threat in the perimeter, but then also bring it inside and again disrupt Kofi Coburn's huge perimeter inside presence. So I think Maryland is just one of those teams that Illinois really struggles against.
Yeah, Jared?
And conversely, I would actually go and say Michigan State. Their center, Xavier Tillman, does a phenomenal job containing Kofi. He shot like 2 of 10 in their first game where they lost by 20 points. And then in that second game where Michigan State won by just 1 point, Kofi was still held to 10 points. He just clearly was not the same type of beast that Illinois needed him to be. So I think in both of those situations, you want to avoid those teams in the Big Ten because they are so good at harassing Kofi in the paint.
I'm going to use my rebuttal against Xavier Tillman being a big factor. I think he is, but I think if you look at Maryland, they're harder for Illinois to face because they have that guard in Anthony Cohen. I feel like Cassius Winston doesn't give you the shooting range that Cohen does, which disrupts Illinois' really strong defense.
Yeah, Illinois has been great about defending against the 3, but Maryland has given them problems all year. Gabby, I'll award you this point.
Thank you.
And just like that, we're all tied up going into the very last question. Jared, I'm going to start with you.
Right. Moment of truth. Let's go.
Illinois basketball, they go from where they were last season to where they are this season. The team as a whole is obviously so much better, but I'm asking you, who impresses you the most on this Illinois basketball team?
I would definitely have to say Alan Griffin, partially just because of the leap that he has taken. As a freshman, he averaged more or less like 3 points a game, had very limited playing time, but over the offseason, clearly made that leap. Now he shoots 43% from 3. He shoots good field goal percentage, averaging above 10 points a game off that bench, and of course has been an invaluable contributor that I think, these next couple of seasons is really going to emerge in the Illini.
Sure. Gabby?
Hands down player, most impressive, freshman Kofi Coburn. You don't get production that he gives you out of a freshman normally in Big Ten, any conference. He defends the paint. He can get out, defend a forward. He can dunk. He can block. He can shoot a jump shot. He's really developed a little bit of everything as a freshman. And to have Underwood and his assistants really groom him to that big center position and have him capitalize off his 7-foot body, I don't see anybody more impressive for the Illini.
Yeah, Jared, as you said, moment of truth. I got to give this one to Gabby.
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine. I got blown out in that last answer. I'm not even going to lie.
You made an excellent point about when
Right.
he comes in as a freshman. We saw it last year with Georgie Pashonishvili. You weren't really sure where that was going to go. And then this season, same thing. Kofi comes in. There's lots of anticipation around him. He's been everything and more for the Illini. And, that's why they are a 20-win team now. Congratulations, Gabby.
Thank you.
I concede.
Yeah,
Thank you. Great arguments. Great arguments.
Of course.
a great job all around.